my God.
Let's get it in.
Tell no lie, 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 lie. Tell no lie.
The question is, would you stay married if your wife changed religion? Yes or no? And is it possible to raise a family, i.e. children, without spiritual principles?
Yes, that's a hard question.
So
no, I would not stay married. That's one. Is it possible without spiritual? I'm not married yet, so I don't think it is, based on what my friends tell me who are married with kids. Specifically speaking about me and my situation, I think I'm founded and I am the man that I am today because I'm a Christian and I believe in those values.
You know, it's just to add on to what he's saying, I feel like to have a basis on beliefs is important. You know, would I stay married personally? No, it's strange, you know, because we were on a path together and now you've changed direction and I'm still on this path. We're just gonna grow apart, you know, we're gonna start to disagree on certain things and everything's just gonna change. And then, you know, to have kids in an environment like that, I mean, what identity do they then have?
You can't raise kids with two different religions, you need one accord, and that's gonna be a bit hectic.
So we got married and we were both Christian and now you've decided
to become Buddhist.
sure, yeah, he's like, I'm Islam now. I don't
okay. I don't think I would not stay married because someone has changed their religion, but I do think that children or a family, I think children should be raised with some sort of spiritual belief. I don't know necessarily about a religious belief, but I think kids should know that they are bigger than their personhood, so there's more to them than just their physical personhood.
With a question like that, it involves a lot of engagement and how you dealt with and what brought about that change of religion. That's the first thing. And then, should that happen, then that means we actually seriously need to work on our marriage, because that means in itself, within our marriage in itself, there's issues that we are not dealing spiritually and there's issues that we are not dealing with each other.
I think first of all, I think it would be really hard for me to have loved someone and then we're walking the Christian path and then they say, I don't really understand Christianity anymore, so I'm leaving it. I can't leave someone that's going into a lost path. I don't think I could divorce you when I'm seeing you losing what's the essence of being alive. Like you're going to the path of death and I'm deciding, okay, let me break this marriage and lead you to death and not pray for you. I haven't resolved myself around that. That doesn't make sense to me at all. Because if I'm married and when we got married, because I'm hoping that when I got married we're on the same wavelength of what religion meant to us and what we're trying to instill in children. Yes, I know that there are children that are raised without religion. We went to school, we saw children that were atheists. We know it can happen. I was at vets, there were people that were like, nah dude, peace and love, me I don't understand Christianity, doesn't make sense to me, friend. Who are you praying to? You've never even seen him. Who's Paul? You don't know him. But to you and I, we went through vets, we went through all these like situations and we still chose Jesus, this Jesus that no one's seen. We still chose him. Now we get married and then you tell me, yes, as dude, I'm chucking. Like, I really feel like, no, this is not my path and I don't want my children to go on this path. I cannot leave you. I literally can't.
I just want to pick your brain for a second.
Yeah.
Why do you correlate the fact that somebody's leaving Christianity with the path of death?
Because that's what my religion says. Because there's a path to, what I understand is there's a path that seems right to man.
Yeah.
And that path leads to death. And if Jesus is the truth, the way, the truth, and the life, that means that if you're not on the way of truth, you're not leading yourself to the light. Where you? That's how I understand my religion. So if you're outside of my understanding of Christianity and you're choosing somewhere else and you're locking yourself to somewhere else, I can only understand that path as death because it seems right to you as man.
So if you're understanding that path is death, so I feel like you're almost contradicting yourself. You're saying, understanding that if it's not Christianity, it's a path of death, but if your partner he's choosing no longer Christianity, he's also choosing a path of death, is he not?
But I can't break that covenant, because if I got into a marriage and you're a Christian, I made that covenant under Christian God. Now I can't use an outside breaking, because God doesn't believe in divorce. I can't use the way of the world of breaking my marriage in order to accommodate the path you want to go on. I can't do that, because that's not what my religion teaches.
Okay.
So it doesn't
you would want
align.
to save the person.
It's not that I want to save the person, but because it doesn't align to what if Christianity doesn't believe in, let's say if Islam doesn't believe in like breaking your vow because your man got a wife, and in South Africa you can divorce if someone's an adulterer. I can't use South African law to accommodate my marriage. It doesn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense to me.
But is it important to also allow people to go through ebbs and flows with their religion or their spirituality? So what if I'm just going through a questioning, or I'm uncertain about things, or it's not that I don't want to be Christian anymore or I don't want to be religious anymore, but I'm dealing with things, I'm going through things.
If my spouse didn't give me a reason for why they're changing religion, then it's a whole nother ball game. I can't say yes, I'll leave, I'll stay, or I'll leave. It depends on the. We have to.
It starts with religion and it will continue. Now they're not going to be giving you reason for all the other things.
Exactly.
So if my spouse didn't give me a reason, sure. I think the question was, they now decided they're going to change. It's completely like they're gone. I was a Christian, I am no more a Christian. I don't think it's a matter of,
I think for me, I think the reason I'm having such a difficult time answering this is because at first, the first obvious decision as a Christian is to be like, what? They're leaving God, they're leaving Jesus, leave them. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it has deeper meanings, because in my mind, I was literally just searching the Bible to be like, what is going on in there? And the story that I keep coming up with is Hosea. His wife stayed doing the nyos. You know what I'm saying? She stayed doing all the funny things, you know what I'm saying? But God was like, so the prostitute went to go fetch her sleeping with another man. And he stayed. And God was like, yo, stay, go get your girl. This is your girl, go get your girl. You know what I'm saying? And so technically you're breaking the contract if you don't believe in the institute that constituted that contract. You get what I'm saying?
But she said with divorce, she said that God goes against it or whatever. But the only reason you can divorce, it says in the Bible, is if you find your husband or whatever, wife, whatever, cheating. That is it.
Which is the one reason people don't divorce, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
That's true.
So that is the only thing, that is the only thing that you're allowed to divorce. So I think, for my opinion, I say that I wouldn't leave. I would actually find out what is going on. You need to be equally yoked. We have to have been equally yoked from the beginning. It cannot just, you cannot tell me that you woke up in the morning and like,
but something
actually, this had actually happened to me, but then I wasn't too faithful at the end of the relationship. He decided he wanted to be Seventh-day Adventist, and I was like, cool, it's whatever.
You couldn't give up your Saturdays.
No, I don't know what you saying. I don't know the whole thing. And I mean, we varsity with kids, like, it was not that hectic, you know. So it was like, you do you, I'll do me, but I was never keen on like trying to go there. I mean, he wouldn't mind, but then no.
So they decided I'm not going to be Christian in this, whatever the journey, whatever was. What it means is that you're saying you're not going to be Christian and I still want to be Christian. It means we have deviated. We have deviated. How is it in marriage if you're not united?
No.
We have deviated. No. But what I'm saying,
it can still be a marriage, and I can. It's like if I say that I don't want to raise my children in a Catholic. It's like, to me, it's things, people go through things in life. You change. It's like what Amelie's saying is a valid point. Is that sometimes you reevaluate what certain things mean to you because of the circumstances in life. Like the trust that you had in God when you failed and the trust that you had in God when you won $1 million through like a huge business deal is different. So now circumstances are going to alter that. If now your husband or your wife decides that a huge circumstance happened, whatever the reason is, and I don't trust in God anymore, am I leaving? I cannot leave them because circumstances will change tomorrow.
As Christians, we tend to expect the same kind of things that we that we do ourselves. And that is wrong. That is wrong. The number one commandment Jesus left us with is love. And to love is to love the person for who you are, for who they are. So the moment you start expecting something from somebody, you're adding conditions now to that love.
This question really hits home for me. I was dating a guy who was a Jehovah's Witness and I'm Catholic, and we were dating for 3 years. When we began dating, religion wasn't a big issue, you know. We kind of managed to maneuver and work with our differences. So when it started getting serious, because engagement was in the talks, our family members, you know, knew that we were together. And, you know, that's when he did a 360 and he was like, but wait, if you were going to be my wife, or if you are to be my wife, you have to convert to be a Jehovah's Witness. And that's when I had a problem, simply because we were together for 3 years. I was a Catholic. You didn't have a problem. We managed to work our way through our differences, you know. So why must all of a sudden I now convert to your religion? And he brought one factor, which was the kids. How would we, if we were to have kids, how would we raise our kids? You know, and I simply believe that religion shouldn't be a divider in any relationship, whether it's you dating, whether you're in a marriage. I simply believe that, you know, there's a beauty in learning each other's religion. You know, so it was that thing where, you know, but you were Catholic, you Catholics sin a lot. You don't believe the same things that we believe. I'm a Jehovah's Witness. You can't donate blood. You can't celebrate Christmas. You can't celebrate your birthdays. And it was that kind of thing of where
sex is a dream, boy.
So basically, he wanted me to sacrifice something that's very dear to my heart. And the fact that he was asking me to sacrifice something that's very dear to my heart simply meant that he didn't love me the way that I thought he loved me. Because when you love someone, you don't ask him to sacrifice something like that, never. So my answer to that question would definitely be no. It's the time that you need me the most. You know what I mean? So our relationship basically ended because of our religious differences, which for me was bullshit, you know, but it's life.
So did he end
This came from the heart. See, that
bullshit. Do you miss him?
Randy, you wanted to
I do miss him, but you know, it is what it is. I feel like I didn't lose anything. I didn't lose anything. He missed out on a lot.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Hey.
Okay, for me, I feel like
boy, you missed out. What?
You really want your kids to be running around saying, no, mommy's way is more right than daddy's way, or, you know, because I feel like that just creates unnecessary competition in the house. You know, that dynamic is unhealthy. I don't have an answer. I don't have a...
I agree with...
I think we can't talk about this without going deep. So for me, there's two very important questions that need to be answered before I can answer the actual question that was given. Number one is, why are you changing religion? And number two is, which religion are you changing to? So I'll expand on both. Number one, why are you changing religion? We have a group of family friends, right? They went to church one day. On their way back from church, they got into a car accident. 3 of the family members died on spot. So one family member came home, so the other one that was left. Now you went to church, you left your spouse at home. You come back home, the kids are gone. You're telling your spouse the kids are gone, your spouse is like, I'm done with this God of yours. How can you leave your spouse in that kind of situation? You can't, because you're breaking a covenant and you're leaving somebody who needs you the most during that time. This is a real life story. So if you're saying you're going to divorce, what kind of person are you, and what kind of covenant have you made with this person? You see what I'm saying? To get to the bottom of it, we might find that it's actually a psychological problem.
It's not really about religion.
And if it's a psychological problem, we need to deal with that. We need to get the multidisciplinary team, we need to speak to the psychologist and deal with that, then come back to religion. So we have to get to the bottom of, why is it that you're changing your religion? The second thing is, which religion? I feel like there's certain religions where we can work with it. If you're atheist, for example, I can make a plan. But if you're Hindu, you're coming into the house of Hinduism, you're bringing in a whole different practice. No, because if you're atheist, it's nothingness. That's true. If you're atheist, it's nothingness.
Not necessarily.
So we can somehow do something. But if it's Hinduism, they do what they do. Now you're bringing that into the home, and it becomes a bit of a problem. So for me, the second part of the question says, is it possible to raise a home without spiritual practice? Definitely yes, because we've grown up in school with people who have been raised without spiritual practice. For me, in my home, as for me and my home, we'll praise the Lord for it.
Amen. Serve the Lord.
But would I leave you? No. Because, sorry, there's another verse. Steph mentioned the verse that speaks about you can only leave if he's cheating. So number one, why I wouldn't leave. Number two, there's another verse that speaks about how a praying wife can save her husband and her family. Yes. I will be that praying wife.
Amen.
Say for example, I'm Christian and then now you converted to Islam, or the other way around, where I know that now on a Friday I'm going to mosque and on a Sunday you're going to church, or just those simple fundamentals that come into play. I feel like it would bring too many issues to the relationship. Would I leave? Hey, if there are no kids involved, chances are I'd probably stick around, because I feel like I fell in love with the person and not the religion they went for. But at the same time, it contributed to how our relationship grew, right? But now, the moment where you put children into, or you bring children into the factor, it's a bit tricky, because then now our kids. So now, the moment you bring kids into the situation, it's like, listen, I want to raise my kids a certain way, right? So I think it's going to confuse them for them to like, listen, mom was all of a sudden, we were both Christian, now the next thing, mom is this, and then dad is this now. So as a child, what do you identify with? What religious practices do you practice? What do you follow? I feel like in a relationship, in a marriage, I feel like it's going to be too much, and I feel like if that next person is not strong enough to actually fight the battle with you, eventually that relationship is going to crumble.
But is the issue here religious practices or the fundamentals? Because people who believe, fundamentally, belief is the same. We all believe in something we haven't seen. That is the basis of religion. The basis of religion and belief.
Because another person would say, I can't take the practices out of my religion.
I can't separate the two.
Exactly. So your understanding could be that for me,
we all believe. Yeah. We all believe in something. Because you were saying, I would be okay with an atheist husband, but not necessarily a Hindu husband.
Something I can work with.
You can work with it. But I mean, a Hindu husband believes in something. So an atheist husband doesn't believe in anything at all.
An atheist is believing and not believing in. So,
but is that better than...
I think it's easier to get an atheist to believe in Christianity again than to get somebody who's practicing a whole nother thing.
I don't know. Changes the dynamics of the relationship. Like if the foundation of our relationship was built in Christ and you changing it, it's like, let's say before we get married, you choose we don't want to have kids. 5 years down the line, you want to have a kid. You have changed something. I didn't agree to that 5 years ago. So it's changing the dynamics, and I might feel differently about you. Will I leave you? I don't know. I'm not married. I've not been in that position before, but it does change the dynamics. In terms of kids, I think kids need to be under one accord. Your father can say this, I say that, because we're in different religions. We have to be one foundation, one understanding of what we're going to do.
So basically you're saying you will leave, because now you're saying that...
But even if I do leave...
No, it's not even if I do leave,
okay. No, but listen, wait, even if I do leave, at the end of the day, if we are divorced, and he has the kids on this weekend, and they're still going to do that, and they're going to come back to the home.
It's even worse.
So it's like, it's
but
very
what about
confusing.
giving children the opportunity to learn both and choose ultimately?
No, you can't.
Your parents can
I really want to answer Brandy's example where she put in where your husband, there was an accident, someone comes and someone dies, and then the person says, I'm done with your God and everything. I think that's adding another criteria to the question, and another criteria that can be discussed and engaged in. When I started my soliloquy, I clearly mentioned that I'm not married, and I can't say what it is, but I know the foundation in which we based our relationship and union on, if you decide to break it, what are we basing this union on initially? I'm not saying without Christianity there's no union. I'm saying the Christianity, our union was based on Christianity. So if the base of our union is what
is that an assumption or a fact?
No, it's a fact.
No,
for his union. A lot of people, the constitution of marriage in itself, it was first Christian before it even became a legislation kind of thing. Listen, the foundation of marriage and the vision that we have for our marriage and for our goal, for wherever we're going together, is based on Christianity. If on that basis you are choosing our goals and our foundation is something that I no longer want to choose with, does that mean that our union is still intact?
Yeah, but no, wait. For me, it's exactly like Thomas' example. They both understand Christ, but she's Catholic and he's Jehovah's Witness. Certain practices are not accommodating in Jehovah's. That's the one. Catholicism and others aren't in Jehovah's Witnesses. It's not that we pray different gods, but how we do life in Christianity is not the same. Now, if you come and you say that, no, if you don't do Christianity anymore, then because you no longer validate Christianity, that means I can no longer validate this marriage. I can't do that. To me, Christianity is still Christianity. So you chucked, but my marriage is still my marriage. It's not because you decided to leave that now my marriage is now, because there's no more consensus, my Christianity has to get fickled or has to die away because you decided to go.
Oh, woman.
That's where I understand what Tom is saying. I miss him, but he didn't understand that the Christianity wasn't about our practices. It was about our faith and who we believed in. But wait, but because you can't come to a consensus as to, you know what, we're actually chasing practices instead of coming down to the fundamental of what this marriage is on. And this marriage is on a Christianity. So I can't leave my partner because I still believe in a Christianity that turns and changes people. So you can't tell someone that, oh no, our whole fundamental is done because you decided to chat. No.
If we are Christian and the basis of our life is based on Christianity and you decide to change religion, either be atheist, either be Buddhist or Muslim, the whole doing of our life completely changes because how Muslims and Buddhists and every other religion does life in comparison to Christian is completely different.
So what I'm saying is that with what she's saying is that if you in a marriage, right, and you're Christian, right, and now you believe in not divorcing, and if you divorce and somebody changes, surely you're also going against your own religion. You get what I'm saying? Because we all say faith and religion is a personal thing. So why is the covenant of your marriage going to be based on somebody else's spiritual journey? Because now you're compromising your religion because of what they did. Do you get what I'm saying? And that doesn't make sense to me.
People have different levels of where they are in their respective religions, what their religion means to them, and also priorities. So if, for example, stupid example, if religion is the plate of your marriage, once you break that plate, everything falls apart. But if religion is just the sauce on top of you can move that sauce to the side, and everyth's gonna be all right. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Very wise. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So for some people it's a meatball where you can literally take out, or it's the side. You can move it, you can take it out, and everything is okay. For some people it's okay, but for some people, once you break that plate, there is nothing. Everything falls apart. You can't. But then what I'm
asking is that what is religion? Is religion the practice or the fundamental?
That's why I said it depends. Because for example, for me, I'm more about a relationship with Christ, and God. So that whole Trinity, you know what I'm saying? That whole Trinity and what it means to me. And so someone else, they may not believe that Christ.
So you would be with someone of a different Christian denomination.
Because our kids died.
You would be with someone of a different Christian
denomination. You know what? For me
because
personally,
that's an element.
Wait, for me,
not changing a religion completely, but saying.
No, but here we spoke about But what I'm saying, for me personally, I wouldn't necessarily. I don't think I would devote. So my partner comes in and says, "Baby, I'm changing religions." I don't think
Jehovah's Witness.
They say to Jehovah's Witness.
No more birthdays, no more Christmas, no more.
No, she's the one who's not having no more birthdays. But what I'm saying, basically what I'm saying is that first of all, at that point, like I said in the beginning, at that point, that kind of decision doesn't come out of nowhere. Okay, that decision, there's fundamental things that have moved or that are missing or that either she didn't see or I didn't see or whatever the situation is, I wouldn't divorce her at that point. I would not divorce her. If she comes and tells me, baby, I'm changing religions, I won't divorce her.
Okay, Shab,
so
at what point do you divorce her?
If things end up not working out, like for example, let's say she becomes I don't know what you call them, she becomes satanic. Now all of a sudden,
No.
Why is it wrong?
Because
Right now we are deviating from the question. We're going to Jehovah's.
No, that's not the example again.
The reason why I say satanic is because it's an extreme so that you understand what I mean. But
I'm questioning.
If she turns like her boo, if she becomes Jehovah's Witness, there are certain things that Jehovah's Witnesses believe in that will clash with the way my relationship with Christ. So when that becomes hectic and that starts now impacting and breaking both of us down.
The second part of the question is it possible to raise a family without spiritual principles? But I want to take that a level further. When you look at your lives now and you go back and you think about primary school, high school, varsity, do you feel like the principles or the religious principles that you had then, or the religion in which your family was surrounded and how you interacted with other people of different religions, do you feel like there was an advantage or disadvantage to the milieu in which you were in your house? And if there was an advantage or disadvantage, where and how?
I think for me personally it was an advantage. It was such an advantage because I had insight on so many things.
At what point was the advantage? Primary school, when we were in primary school and we all had to go to hymns and we were singing Our Father. We didn't really understand Our Father. And then when you went to high school and you saw someone, you interacted with Islam. Yeah. What about Islam did you feel like, okay, I'm having an advantage, I have an Islam? And then when you went to varsity or you interacted with the varsity crowd, how did your principles or your fundamentals about, how did you see the difference in your interaction? You know what I mean?
I think the thing is, that's what I was going to say. I didn't say better, and I wouldn't say, I would say that it gave me an advantage for me, personally. If I didn't have the insight and the know-how that I had there based on religious principles and my relationship with God, it would have been a mess. I would have been a totally different person. It would have been something totally different. And I'm not saying that it would make me better than, because there's a lot of Islamic principles that I admire. I'm just like, wow, there's a lot of Muslims and I'm just like, wow, these guys are doing incredible things and where they are in life is pretty incredible. But I mean, for me personally, it really put me on a whole new level, because if I didn't have it, because like that's how I look at it, me without those principles and me with the principles, there's so many things I would have done that today I would have been a totally different person.
Like, I think I'm the way I am because of Christ. I wouldn't say, no, Christ is the way. I wouldn't impose Christ on people, but if people ask me like, you're different, I'd be like, yeah, it's definitely Jesus. And I wouldn't, if asked, I would never deny it. But I saw the club and I saw what club I didn't fit in. And that was the club of, yeah, we don't mess with Christ on that deeper level. We're just superficial about it. So I saw, was it a disadvantage? Yeah, to get into that club. But now looking back in hindsight, it was a great disadvantage.
It's pretty deep, eh? It's,
yeah.
I don't think that I would have been a different person. You know, I didn't think I had many spiritual experiences that would have molded me as a person. I wasn't so deep within it, to be honest. You know, growing up, I was just like, my parents are forcing me to do this. Not, you know what I'm saying? This, I'm just a guy. I'm just, you know, just going by. And yeah, you know this. Come on. So, do I think it's important? I mean, I think it's important now that I know as much as I know, which is not really a great deal. You know, but I don't know.
Do you guys feel that you would have been any different had you not grown up under Catholic or Christian?
I would have been a stripper.
I would have probably been the exact same person.
In my own experience, I think the only time I was raised Catholic, and I think the only time that felt like a disadvantage was when I got to varsity and I met a host of people, and my other beliefs outside of my religious beliefs, so my political beliefs, started to sort of clash with the way I was raised religiously. But the only reason it clashed was because people would question me on, say, feminism, and they're like, okay, you have these sets of beliefs, but you were raised Catholic. How do you resolve those things? How do you, where do those worlds meet? How do those worlds meet? It's not always what makes you, because I've met fabulous atheists, I've met fabulous people who are agnostic, I've met fabulous non-believers. I don't think I've met a fabulous Satanist. I don't think I've met a Satanist, but I've met fabulous people who have no beliefs or alternative beliefs or whatever. I don't know. I don't always think it's what makes a person.
I really don't believe religion is something that makes a person. I think that's more on the culture side, more than religion. Yeah, I feel like culture experience, those are the things that can really mold a person rather than a belief in a spiritual practice. So.
I think for me, the fundamentals for me were very strong. And I feel like there is a difference because, I don't know, the way I cope with things and the way other people cope with, I think the same situation I go through is different. I have this kind of peace where I think only comes from Christ. Because I don't understand what it is, I feel, this is my opinion, I feel like it comes from Christ. And because I know Christ, I feel I can go through this and it's okay. And this is me. I don't think I'm better, but I think for me, Christ makes everything better for me. So I think for me, my fundamentals were very strong, and my parents never enforced it on us, but I saw the way they lived and I saw the difference it made in them, and that is why it made me okay with it. You can't say I'm a Christian and you see things that are contradictory, and this is why we struggle as Christians, because people will be like, you say you're a Christian, but look at your life, etc., etc. So for me, with my parents, it was like, whew. Okay, and I always say to my mom, I thank you, the biggest gift you ever gave me was Jesus, because honestly, without that, this is my opinion, like I said, honestly, without that, I don't know where I'd be without Christ, guys. You don't even understand. People deal with things differently, and for me, dealing with it was dealing with it with Christ. So I don't think there was ever a time for me where I wasn't unsure of my faith. So yeah, for me, it was the fundamental was good for me, as I said.
I 100% turned out differently because I had Christianity as a basis. I feel like the society that we live in, these kids are lit, man. People do lit things. And I always had the Bible as a reference. I always had God as a cornerstone to turn to and be like, okay, no, this is not in line with who I am. And like how Merv was saying in the video, there's a lot of times where I didn't fit in. All my life I had to fight. Friends go to Catholic and we go to Rema, and it hasn't been a problem because we serve the same God. So growing up, I feel like it was really a great advantage because I always had a cornerstone, Sometimes it's really difficult in primary school and in high school, you go through a lot of changes, etc. And I always had a cornerstone to turn to. And getting older, I found that God's grace and favor has followed me really all the days of my life. So I don't think that I'd be where I am and be the person that I am without having God. And I hope my children will be able to see that as well once I instill the principles in them.
For me, it was a advantage and a disadvantage because I come from a very Catholic home. So the reason why I said it was a disadvantage was because during high school and primary school, even varsity, even now, from what I was taught, it's that kind of thing of where now, you can't have friends who are homosexuals, or you should not have homosexuals in your circle because it's a sin, kind of thing. So for me, it was that thing of where like, okay, we are taught to not discriminate against other people, but then yet again, homosexuality is a sin. And my pastor turned out to be gay. And that was one of my favorite pastors. So when, kind of like, as soon as we found out that he was gay, I started questioning my belief, I started questioning my religion. I stopped going to church, because I actually wanted to go on this journey on my own, without my parents kind of guiding me.
First and foremost, if I'm going to get into a relationship with someone, we get married and we get kids, I feel like for them to have a solid upbringing the way I was brought, I feel like there needs to be a solid or a certain foundation. And I feel like it confuses You know, I mean, obviously, granted, if the kids get older and then they start to decide for themselves, great. But I feel like at a certain age, maybe from the moment they were born to 18, 21, I feel like as a parent you need to like lead them and show them like, you know, the path and like this is what needs to be done. What my parents would say, I always believe them. You see, so if my parents say this is right and this is wrong, I'm like, okay, this is right, this is wrong. When you go to school, it's like, well, it's parents first, and you know, like your teachers and your brothers and sisters, and you know, so it's always a level of like hierarchy where you like follow, you know what I'm saying? So any disadvantages, advantages for me on my side, not really. I mean, I was a good boy.
You need to have an identity, an idea of who you are, and that comes from a relationship with God. So I'm going to constantly give, I'm going to give them religion, I'm going to give them God, I'm going to give them all that is amazing. Yeah, relationship with God. That's the most important thing.
Religion is basically your guidelines set up as to how you're going to live your life here on earth. So if I'm going to confuse my kids, already I'm putting them in a situation where their life is going to be disrupted somehow. You know, if it's not even just from them alone, giving them the opportunity to choose a religion. I feel like between us as parents, you know what I'm saying, if I know that my wife is practicing a different religion as opposed to mine, we're giving our kids a blanket, you know, like a foggy image as to how they need to proceed with life. Right?
In a marriage, religion would be the meatball.
Okay.
It's not paramount. It wouldn't affect the nature of my marriage or the success of my marriage. My marriage wouldn't end because my husband decided to become Islamic or, you know, of a different faith if our marriage was a Christian marriage.
I believe it can be done in the sense of where you create some sort of a knowledge and understanding to your kids with regards to both of your different religions, right? Now, you give them the option to choose at a later stage in their lives, you know, what they want to pursue, what religion it is that they want to pursue.
You used the perfect analogy for it. If the foundation, if our marriage is a plate, right? And this is a plate. Let's say it's two plates coming together, both of us porcelain, because initially we were equally yoked as plate. With the same plate, the same foundation, we decided to get married, right? Now, whatever the plate handles, whether it be hot, cold, or everything like that, the plate can handle it because it's in equilibrium. Now, one side of the plate decide, I will no longer be porcelain. Right now, decide to become a paper plate. That completely affects the dynamic of that relationship. So either the paper plate will start getting wet and floppy, and whatever needs to be carried will need to be carried only by either one side, or...
I cannot be responsible for another person going to heaven. Me, I know where I'm going. So I'm gonna say, hey, do ABC, ABC. Dog, guys, irresponsible for an entire human being to go to heaven. Already I'm responsible for your food, your electricity, your bread, what car you drive now, but also where you're going after you die. No ways, give me a break.
So clearly you don't believe in being a fisher of men.
No. But you see, when a fisher of men, what do? I throw my line in the water,
okay.
I put my hook, I put my bait. Whether you bite or not is not my problem. Can't enough with the noise, let's get it in.